this is Sasha bringing you a video tutorial today from BP4U, and today we're going to be talking about our toolbox over here in Photoshop Elements 11. We're going to be talking about what these tools do and different ways that you can use them. So let's get started. The first tool that we have here is our zoom tool. It's a magnifying glass. We can zoom in by making sure that we have the plus sign checked, and we can zoom out by making sure that we check the minus sign. You can also pull this up, or you can pull that out, or you can click on one of these buttons over here. And so we have our 1-to-1. We can fit it in the screen, we can fill the screen, or we can show the print size. My favorite button to click is the print screen, or the fit screen button. So let's say that we went ahead and we showed the original size. Now we can use this hand tool over here to move the picture around so that we can look at a certain part of it that we want to see. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to fit that back in the screen. So then we have this Marquee Tool, and we have we can take it over here to draw around a selection. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to copy a selection and we're going to paste it, and it pasted onto a new layer here, and I copied it by pressing Control-C and I pasted it by pressing Control-V. So this tool right here will allow me to move this selection around, and this is my little arrow tool, my move tool, and by using this tool I can take the selection that I just made, or any selection that I have, and I can move that around the picture where I need that to be. So then I have my Lasso Tool, and you can see down here too that I can choose between my lasso, my polygonal lasso, and my magnetic lasso. And so the regular lasso, I can just completely freehand draw whatever I need to around my selection. I can do a really rough selection. Control-D will deselect that for me. My polygonal lasso, I just click and I drag, and it's going to drag that out to a straight line. I can click again to make another point, and then I can drag, and again it's going to drag it out somewhere into a straight line until I finally get back to where I need to be. And again, Control-D will deselect that for me. And my magnetic lasso will adhere to lines, and it looks for things like the contrast between the boy here and the sky to kind of stick to. It kind of sticks to it like a magnet. And so there you can make a pretty okay looking selection by using this tool. And then next we have our quick selection tool, our selection brush, and our magic wand. And these tools are all for selecting different parts of your picture. And we can control our tolerance down here with the slider. And we can go ahead and we can refine our edge with this box here. And then our quick selection tool, you kind of click it and just keep dragging while you're holding down your left cursor. And you can see that did a pretty good job, just like that. And then we have our selection brush, and you kind of just pull it around here, and wherever I'm painting, it's kind of just selecting those areas. And again, you can you can make your brush size a little bit bigger. Let's say like right here, now it's made a selection of just that spot. Okay, so here we have our red eye remover. I don't have any red eye in the picture, so I'm not going to be fixing any of that. Now here I can choose between my spot healing or my healing brush tool. Now the spot healing tool, you just click and it will sample and pull in from around the photo. For example, we're going to pretend that this little, oops, not that big. This little piece of cloud here, we'll pretend like that's not supposed to be there. So we can just kind of click on that and it gets rid of it just like that. Now the healing brush tool, I'm going to need to go in to get rid of it and I'm going to have to sample from a spot by clicking Alt, by holding down my Alt key and left clicking with my mouse, and then sort of pulling that over. And then that will get rid of that. So next here I have my Smart Brush, and then I have my Detail Smart Brush, and those two brushes we can use for different purposes here. We have some presets that we can use. So this brush is going to add blue to the sky. This one's going to make it brighter. This one's going to add some contrast. So we have a lipstick brush and a pearly white teeth brush. We can do some color splashing, and so you can paint on with these brushes and they will do what they say they do. So then we have our clone stamp tool, and again you want to go ahead and set your brush size, and again you hold down your Alt and you click, and then you can kind of pull that over. So here we have our blur, our sharpen, and our smudge brushes, and they do what they say they do. For example, if we use the blur brush, we'll turn up the strength so that you can see it really good, and we were to keep painting over her face, you can see that it definitely made that blurry. There we go. Then we have our Dodge, Burn, and Sponge tool. So the Dodge tool will brighten, the Burn tool will darken, and the Sponge tool will go between saturation and desaturation. And so you can pick here with the Dodge and the Burn whether you want to work on the shadows, midtones, or highlights, and you can set your size and your exposure. And with the Sponge tool, you can pick whether you are saturating or desaturating, and then of course you can pick your size and your flow. So here we have our brush tool. You set your size of your brush here, your opacity, you can set your blending mode, and then you have some brush settings. And if you have a tablet, then you can set your tablet settings. You have different kinds of brushes here. So again, you could set your brush hardness by choosing whether you wanted. You can kind of look at the pictures. This would be a soft brush, whereas this would be a very hard brush. You have 3 different erasers here. We have just the regular eraser, and you can see that it will do nothing when we are on a duplicated layer. You can see that the eraser erases the background and turns that, it erases the picture and turns it to a white background. The background eraser tool is a little bit different. It erases and it leaves nothing behind. And so it would be just like having a hole in the picture. And the magic eraser, like the background eraser, will erase the background and leave nothing behind it. It kind of works like the magic wand tool, where it you click on it and it just kind of picks, like the magnetic lasso, it looks for edges and it looks for contrast and it erases right in those areas. And again, you can set the tolerance here. The higher the number, the more that it's going to take from, and the lower the number, the more picky it's going to be. Then we have our paint bucket here, and of course, just like the magic eraser tool, it's going to again look for those lines of contrast. So again, you can pick the tolerance. If we were to make that tolerance really high, we filled most of the picture. But if we were to really pull that number down pretty low, it's going to get really super picky and it's not going to fill very much. Here we have a gradient, and here we can add a gradient to our photo. So when you're working with gradients, down here you can pick your color, and up here you can pick your opacity. And so right now we have it black at 100% opacity, fading down to white at 100% opacity. So we can go ahead and we can just click and we can drag and we can pull this across. And we probably wouldn't want to do that on this particular layer, so we could add a new layer. So we can click and we can pull that across, and we can change our blending mode over here in our layers window, and you could change your opacity if you wanted to, and you could get all kinds of really neat effects from doing this. You can also pick what kind of gradient that you have. Like this would be a radial gradient, and so you could start here and pull that in, or you could start here and pull that out, and you could just get all kinds of different looks. If you were to put this in reverse, then you could get a nice vignette with a center light in there. Okay, so next we have our eyedropper tool, which is a color sample tool. And so you can see, watch this box as I click around on the photo, the colors change. Next we have our shape tool here. And you can see as I draw here, it just draws shapes. Delete those layers. We have our text tool, and just like the name says, it makes our text for us. So here we can pick our font by clicking on this drop down box here. We can pick the size of our font, we can pick the color, and we can just click and we can type something. You can press that green check mark when you're done. Now if you're wanting to make the font bigger or smaller using this, you're going to want to find that Constrain Proportions box and make sure that that's checked. That way you can size up and down without making it look wonky. If you don't have that box checked, you can do all kinds of crazy things that you probably don't want to do. Okay, so next we have the pencil tool, and you can use that just to draw things with a pencil. Again, you can set your size here, your opacity here, your line here. We have our crop tool here, and so we can decide whether we want to see it as the rule of thirds, a grid, the golden ratio, or nothing. I think it's really cool how we can see all these different crop enhancers and these lines here, because you could get all kinds of really cool compositions from playing with those. So here we have, pull that down here. Let's try that again. So you can change whether you want it to be custom and 8x10. So if we wanted to make a photo in 8x10, then we could use that 8x10 ratio here, and that would allow us to make a crop that would fit in an 8x10 frame, which would be good for printing. Or you could use a 5x7 or a 4x6. Different photo ratios here. You can set your resolution. It's set up for you really nice. So here you have a recompose tool, which kind of allows you to move your picture around inside of the canvas. We have our cookie cutter tool, which will allow you to cut the photo inside of different shapes. And lastly, we have our straighten tool, which will allow you to straighten the photo along this line that you're going to make. And you would usually make the line against like the horizon or whatever you wanted it to be straightened up against. And then here we have our color swatches. You can reset them by clicking on the black and white. You can swap them by clicking on these arrows, and you can reset them to different colors by clicking on the color and clicking around inside this box until you find the color that you want. So thank you so much for watching this video tutorial. I hope that you learned something new. Happy editing!